A Sith Spectre or a Spirit, the antithesis of a Jedi Force Ghost. Those who dwell in the light aren't the only beings that have discovered a way to linger behind after death, refusing to pass on through the Force. The ancients learned that they could tether their essence to an object or a place. This allowed them to stay behind, continue their reign of terror. There are a lot of differences between Sith spirits and Force ghosts though. For instance, unlike the Force ghosts who really don't have any influence on the realm of the living, dark side spirits almost always are freely able to continue using their powers and their sorcery. It's quite frequent for Sith spirits to attempt to harm or to tamper with the unlucky living who find them. Galactic conflicts have begun because of the influence of a Sith spirit. But just like our recent video about Force ghosts, where did they begin? Who was the very first Sith Lord that became a spirit in all of galactic history? Well, the answer is not as straightforward as it may seem. We sense that this was a holocron that you had a particular interest in. So, shall we open it and learn the origins of the Sith spirits? Deciphering who exactly was the very first Sith spirit is not going to be easy. Much like the Force Ghost's origins, the exact details become unclear when we travel extremely far back in the timeline. However, of course, we will provide you with the evidence that we've obtained to discuss amongst yourselves. None of the Sith of the Rule of Two decided to remain after their deaths, which is compelling. Or perhaps the Sith of the Rule of Two simply lacked this knowledge. The ancient Sith were wise in ways of the dark side, and knew many powerful and ancient techniques that have been lost to time, turned to ash or dust. It appears that the power to tether one's essence to an object or a location in order to cheat death was one of those lost arts. This being the case, the Phantoms of the Dark Lords are almost exclusively ancient Sith. One of the very first that we were introduced to in the lore was a Sith Lord by the name of Marka Ragnos. Ragnos is the man that made Sith spirits famous. Nearly all of his appearances in the lore are post-mortem. But his spirit was not the first in the timeline that we're aware of, only the most prominent. The earliest records that we could find of spirits of Sith actually date back to the original 12 Dark Jedi, known as the Gen Jedi, who were banished from the world of Ossus following the 100-Year Darkness. If you've previously seen our video on our Force Ghosts, then you know that in Legends continuity, the knowledge of how to become a Force Ghost as a Jedi was a secret, but that it may have dated back all the way to Master Rajavari, the man who established the very first Jedi High Council, and it seems that the life-tampering Gen Jedi decided to take this knowledge and corrupt it using the dark side. To date, we know that Zozan, Karnus Mur, Darth Endedu, Tula Kord, and Ajunta Pal were the first Sith spirits to manifest themselves. It seems appropriate that the very first true Dark Lords of the Sith would also manifest as the first Sith spirits. At this point, they had been alive for hundreds of years due to the dark side, knowledge that they had uncovered from the tombs of ancient Sith kings. According to the old histories, it was said that each of the Dark Jedi began to crave one another's secrets, which drove them into a civil war. The infighting destroyed the Gen Jedi collectively, and most of them died in a single massive battle. Unfortunately though, we don't exactly know which of their order died here, so deciphering which of them manifested as a spirit has proven to be a tricky task. But what we do know is 3 confirmed survivors: Tula Kord, Endedu, and Ajunta Pal. Endedu left Korriban much earlier to escape the jealous infighting, and he would live for another 1,000 years on the world of Prakith. Ajunta Pal was one of the last of the original 12 to die, and he was killed with his own sword by Tula Kord. And of course, Tula Kord would go on to live for several hundred years following this battle, even spawning a short-lived campaign against the Republic before his death at the hand of his own apprentice. By the way, we have a full video planned for Tula Kord, as we've uncovered some massive pieces of lore about his backstory. And then you had Karnus Mur. He couldn't have been the first Sith spirit. He was trapped in a stasis chamber by his rival, Remulus Drapa, and he had attached his spirit to his amulet while in the stasis pod. It's likely that perhaps Zozan was the first of the Dark 12 to die. According to the histories, Zozan recorded her knowledge in a holocron and then attached her spirit to it before she ultimately did die. Although it's not said how she died, her followers would lay her to rest in a tomb, where both her holocron and her spirit would lay dormant and hidden. Using clues, we can tell that she wasn't killed by one of the others since her knowledge didn't fall into their hands though, nor did any of the other 12 even know where to find her body. It was discovered many thousands of years later by Asherad Het, and this tells us that Zozan may have died prior to the Gen Jedi Civil War, making her the first of the 12 Dark Jedi to become a Sith spirit, and giving her that great honor. This is assuming that some of the other Dark Jedi who are not named though did not die before she did. We know of exactly 3 unnamed Jedi spirits who appeared to Palpatine in the book Empire's End issue number 2. But with that being unconfirmed, we are going to settle on Zozan having been the first Sith spirit to manifest. But this is where things are going to get really interesting, guys. You may have detected that we keep saying the first to manifest, and not the first Sith spirit, period. That is because there is a chance that one Dark Lord who existed before any of the 12 was the first to linger, the first Sith to deny death, and to stay in the realm of the living. Much like Qui-Gon Jinn though, he did not make himself known as a ghostly phantom. Rather, there is a chance that this Dark Lord's presence was cursed within his own holocron, and that the gatekeeper of this holocron is in actuality the lingering spirit of the Dark Lord. The Sith we speak of is the Sith Ari King Adis. There had been no king like him in history, born with charcoal black skin and an uncanny strength both physically and within the dark side. Adis was the first Sith king in all of pure-blooded history to unite the warring tribes of Korriban as one. He conquered all by his might alone, as none could challenge him. He wielded 2 force-imbued battle axes in each hand, while it was said that even the mightiest among that day could not wield one of them. This ushers in a 200-year period in the ancient history known as the Reign of the Axe. This is where King Adis was supreme. During this era, he gained even more strength and power, becoming utterly unstoppable. When the Rakata arrived at his world, they were terrified at his strength and attempted to catch him off guard with gifts and hospitality. One of those gifts was the knowledge of how to create a holocron. King Adis crafted his own holocron, poured all of his strength, knowledge, and essence into it. But soon, the Rakatans attacked, and Adis rallied to the primitive Sith purebloods as one. On the battlefield, Adis would slaughter hordes of the more advanced Rakatan soldiers, forcing them to retreat. King Adis chased the species across 7 worlds of Sith space, before finally banishing them completely. Unfortunately, after his victory, he had sustained too many injuries. His body was left too damaged. The dark side had only bolstered and kept him alive for so long, and he passed on after his great victory, as all Sith pray that they do. Following this, we have actually traced what happened to the holocron of Adis, and something was strange about it. It had a sinister will of its own. All attempts to bury the holocron, to hide it away, only lasted for small periods of time, and the holocron was always recovered. Everyone who came into contact with it and attempted to use its power, they would either go insane or die. Many seekers of the holocron felt as though it was calling to them, whispering, as even non-force sensitives that looked upon it spoke of seeing it within their dreams. There is a power here, an old power. The gatekeeper of the holocron is too self-aware. He is not a programmed guide imbued with knowledge and memories, or even just a personality. The gatekeeper taking the form of Adis is something more. It is deceitful. It withholds knowledge. The gatekeeper of the Adis holocron bends people to his will. This single object has amassed an entire dark side cult worshipping its mere existence, seeing the gatekeeper as their leader and teacher. And the gatekeeper was present, commanding his servants, reveling in their prayer. He has also promised and executed death to the servants that have failed it. The fear in the servant's response proves that the holocron has the capability to carry out this threat, and all those that the holocron promised death to would die horrifically in battle. Now, at first, we have to admit that we were dubious when we first looked into this. Sith holocrons do have a reputation for bringing bad luck due to the very nature of them being infected and perverted by the dark side itself. That has to mean bad luck. However, Adis's holocron stands out as being the most deadly of them all, and having a particular thirst for blood. We currently believe that the Adis holocron discovered was far more than a curse, and that his presence could be attached to it, deeper than any others. Our earlier theory proposed that the Jedi brought over the knowledge of Force ghosts from their Jedi past, and then corrupted it with the dark side. If you follow that logic, it only makes sense that they were the only ones to be able to manifest in these phantom-like forms. But since King Adis predates them and all of their knowledge, he was the only one to imbue his holocron with his presence, the only one to enact his will through the gatekeeper. So it's the same principle, but a different method. But now we've presented our evidence, and we turn it to you. Was it the Sith Lady Zozan who was the first Sith spirit? Was it King Adis? Or do you believe that there was another Sith who claims the mantle as the very first dark side Sith spirit? Let us know your thoughts and your theories. And as always, my friends, may the Force be with you.